Hey there, I'm Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're talking all about paint sticks or paint stir sticks. So you get these at like your local home improvement store, Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, whatever. I know like when you buy a gallon of paint, they'll give you one for free, but you can also buy them in larger quantities for crafting. So this is a 10 pack of 12-inch ruler sticks. You can get 10 of them for, I think it's like $1.48, or you can get, this is like the normal size that I normally craft with. You can also get the jumbo paint sticks, and these come in a 3-pack for $1.48. I'm going to craft with both of them today. But before I get started, I just want to talk to you about how I cut my paint sticks so that I don't have to explain it in every video, so you don't have to hear me repeat myself over and over again. If you want to use a hand saw or like a table saw, a miter saw, whatever floats your boat, that's totally fine. I don't want to have to like go back and forth downstairs to my basement to use power tools. So what I do is I just use miter shears. So I bought these on Amazon, probably 2 years ago. I originally bought them, they were like 30 bucks maybe. I originally bought them for crafting with like wooden craft sticks, like the jumbo popsicle sticks, because they have like a blade here, right? And then there's this plate that you can adjust the angle so that you can cut at like very precise angles. So if you want to cut like, I made like a little wooden church out of popsicle sticks for a wreath one time. So I was able to cut like the roof line at a very precise angle. And so it was symmetrical on both sides. Totally awesome. So when I first got these, I was kind of frustrated because I felt like there was like a bit of a learning curve. So I'm just going to tell you what's worked for me. I originally thought like, oh yeah, I should be able to just like cut right through any piece of wood. No problem. One, like I don't have strong enough hands for that. And two, like especially with popsicle sticks and things, the wood was splintering. So I've since gotten smarter. And what I'll do is I will just like set my piece of wood, whether it's a craft stick or a paint stick, whatever, I'll set it on here and I will lightly score. So I won't go all the way through because I'm not that strong. I'll lightly score from one direction. I'll flip it around and I'll score from the other direction. That way I have like, I'm about to go all the way through. And that way I have like a nice guideline to like get me started. And then I'll just kind of cut, like flip back and forth and cut many times until it cut all the way through. And that way I get a lot cleaner lines. There's less splintering. And I just get really clean cuts. The other thing is, I don't know if you can see like on this faceplate, there's the numbers and the lines. So as you like cut at different angles, especially with softer wood like craft sticks and paint sticks, when you press down, sometimes you end up with like the indentations of these lines from this metal plate on the like the wood, and it looks kind of funny. So whenever I cut, whatever side is going to be face up, that's what I do face up on the miter shears as well. So that's it. Let's get crafting. I'm going to share a handful of craft sticks that I made both with the regular size and the jumbo size paint stir sticks. Alright, so you'll start by laying 7 regular paint sticks flat on your work surface. Try to evenly space them about 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't have to be perfect on the first go around, but just kind of get a visual of the layout that you want. And then you want to measure and cut your crossbar. So I tried to make my crossbar as long as possible, so I just cut the handle off right where the curve started at the handle. And then I kept the remainder of that paint stick. And I cut 4 of those. So then what you want to do is on the back side of the paint stick that has the ruler on it, add a dot of hot glue across the, I don't know, like right underneath the handle part, and then lay a crossbar in place and then do the same thing at the bottom, about 1 inch from the very bottom. It helps to like set a paint stick right up against the bottom of the sticks to get them perfectly lined up. And normally I would add hot glue, but I can't add hot glue without losing like my spacing, so I just let this wood glue sit for about an hour, and then I flipped my little sign over, and then I added, okay, I misspoke. I cut 5 of these wood pieces, not 4 of them. apologies. And then I added with wood glue and hot glue, one cut piece of wood and then a second cut piece of wood. And that's gonna serve as my little like ledger bar for my shelf to sit on top of. So I just added a little bit of wood glue there right on top of those two little wood pieces, as well as a dab of hot glue on each end. And then I set the little shelf in place. Now, if I had been thinking, this would have been a really great time for me to bust out the spray paint, but I really wanted to use my Waverly chalk paint in the color moss, so I ended up painting this whole thing. It actually wasn't as time consuming as I thought it would be. It took me like maybe 10 minutes to get in all the nooks and crannies. You could leave this unfinished, you could paint it, you could stain it, whatever you like. And then I got this little chalkboard sign from Dollar Tree, just cut the twine hanger right off. And you could paint this as well, but I scored big time and I got some eucalyptus wallpaper at Dollar Tree. I finally found it, and I actually, spoiler alert, it put some up in our bathroom, so we've got a video coming about some wallpaper crafts, but I just used the scrap that was left over from the bathroom wallpaper project there, and I just smoothed it right on there, and then I used my self-healing cutting mat and a little pen blade. These pen blades are super handy. They come in a 3-pack, and I've used them on so many crafts. I also have like a Fiskars fingertip blade that I've used similarly. That would work well, or like any type of razor blade that you could trim this away. So just trim away all that excess wallpaper, and then also trim away that center part where the chalkboard is. The nice thing is you can kind of see, if you have good light, kind of like an outline of where the chalkboard is underneath. You can see it's a little bit darker, so you can see where to trim away. And then grab a bunch of hot glue, and I just put hot glue all over the back of that little chalkboard, and I set it right in place on my little wooden sign there. This wallpaper pairs perfectly with Waverly chalk paint in the color moss. Pretty obsessed with it. You guys know I use this moss chalk paint on so many projects, and I'm quickly becoming obsessed with this eucalyptus wallpaper as well. And then I just added 3 little hooks. So the way I do this is I will take a nail and hammer it into my wood surface, I don't know, like 1/8 of an inch, and then pull it out, and that makes my little pilot hole, and then from there I can easily screw in these little hooks. I just got a package of them at Home Depot. Use whatever you like. If you don't want to do this, you could also use like Command peel and stick hooks. They sell them at Dollar Tree. I just really liked these black hooks, especially paired with the black chalkboard. But I just screwed in 3 little hooks evenly spaced. And there I have like a little sign that I can hang next to our like back kitchen door to hang up my keys, because if I had $1 for every time one of my children had to find my keys or my cell phone for me, I'd be a very wealthy woman. But that's it for craft number 1. So this next craft uses the jumbo paint stir sticks. You lay 5 out like in a picket fence type shape, where the center one is the highest and the outer ones are the lowest. And then you want to add 2 horizontal crossbars and 1 angled bar at a 45-degree angle. So because these are staggered, you only have to trim the 2 outer ones, because the difference in height between the middle 3 ones will be covered by the horizontal crossbar. So just go ahead and grab those miter shears or your saw or whatever, cut the crossbar at 45 degrees, and then your 2 horizontal crossbars at 90 degrees. Easy peasy. And then from there it was time to stain and paint. I did a distressed type combination of wood stain and paint. So I started with a dry brush technique using Decor gel stain in the color oak. I left a fair amount of like the unfinished wood poking through. And then I came back with some Decor home decor chalk paint in a white and a light green color. I think it was Adirondack white and sage shadow, if I recall correctly. But any type of, you could just do plain white. I just added the green because I thought it would be a little bit A little more interesting, something different. I feel like I use just plain white paint quite often. But then once again, dry brush technique, do a little bit of white, do a little bit of green, mix a little white, little green, whatever floats your boat until you get the finished effect that you like. And then once everything has completely dried, you just glue everything together. Once again, combination wood glue, hot glue, and you're good to go. So for this, I added a little command hook and I was able to hang a wreath on this. So this is a neat little wreath display thing that I can change out with seasonal wreaths. And I think I'm gonna just keep this in the living room and every season swap out the style of wreath. Okay, next up, this is a little bit nautical for me, so bear with me. So I had these glass jars that I really liked. One was from this kombucha that I'm obsessed with, and then one was from apple cider vinegar. Can you tell gut health is important to me? And so I just took these out. I cleaned them up, I took off the labels, I took them outside. I spray painted them with this sea glass spray paint, which is super cool. And then I brought them inside and I added some paint sticks to them. So I just cut paint sticks in half, but what I did is I cut the handle off first, and then I cut them in half, but like staggered. So like, I think if I was dealing with like the full 9 inches, it would be like 4 inches and 5 inches, right? But cut enough to go all the way around each jar. So what I did is I hot glued the little paint sticks in place. And yes, I know hot glue on glass, like this isn't going to be permanent hold. That was not the point. It was just to like hold these in place long enough that I could then wrap them with ribbon and twine to hold them in place long term. So I just put all those little cut paint sticks around the jar. And then I found this really cool ribbon at Dollar Tree. This is like a white webbed ribbon. So not quite a lace, just something a little bit more modern. And then I just wrapped that around the paint sticks, followed by some dollar store twine, wrapped it around a few times, tied a bow, and then finished the look with these little cardboard decal things from Dollar Tree. I just took one that was like a seashell, painted it white, super simple, and hot glued that right in place. But here are my 2 little like nautical sea glass jars. It's kind of, I don't normally do nautical style, but I just couldn't help with this. I thought it was really fun. And I can never resist when I find a really neat, unique jar. I can't resist crafting with it. Okay, this craft got away from me, so just bear with me. So you wanna start with a Kleenex box or a tissue box, right? And cut the top off. And fair warning, this is the longest, most involved project of this video, but it is hands down my favorite craft of this little compilation series here and so worth it. So cut the top off and then give everything a coat of white chalk paint. I used just plain old Rust-Oleum white chalk paint. I did 1 coat, I let it dry completely, and then I did another coat and let that dry. And then it was time to cut a bunch of paint sticks. I ended up cutting the handles off of 18 paint sticks. So you just need the top 4.5 inches of that handle. So it took a while, but I cut all 18 of them, and then I laid them flat and I painted all of them white with, once again, Rust-Oleum plain white chalk paint. And then you'll also need 2 of these.
They're little 5x7 wooden tags, but even just like a 5x7 wood rectangle from Dollar Tree would work. I just kind of like the tag shape on this. You can usually find these in like the unfinished wood section at any craft store. Once everything was painted white, then it was time to assemble. So I just lined up 9, so half of my paint stick handles, so 9 of them in a row, made everything perfectly straight, added a ton of hot glue just to the bottom half, and then I laid my tissue box right on top. So the bottom of the paint sticks, or the paint stick handles lined perfectly with the bottom of the tissue box, and then repeated that on the other side with the other 9 paint sticks. So line them up perfectly, use a paint stick to get an even edge to line them up nicely, add a bunch of hot glue, be super generous, just to the bottom half of the paint stick handles, and then lay the tissue box right on top. Okay, then from here I realized that my sides were bowing out a little bit, so I just reinforced them with a piece of a cut paint stick that was just the length of the tissue box, so just hot glue that right in place, one on each side. I also reinforced the ends of the tissue box with 4 cut paint sticks on each end, so 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. It just made a nice flat level surface for me to add those wooden tags onto, just because the paint sticks kind of stuck out a little bit on the end of the tissue box. And then from there, more hot glue, and you can just hot glue those wooden tags onto each end, and it makes kind of like a little toolbox or a caddy. It's kind of the look I was going for here, and you could just leave this you can leave this plain white as is. I decided to go one extra step and do a crackle finish, so I just took some plain brown acrylic craft paint. It was kind of messy, kind of dry brush, just did a little bit onto all of the white painted surfaces. I let that dry, and then I added a coat of just plain Elmer's school glue. So like the white Elmer's school glue that dries clear, just a coat on everything. So I did one side at a time. So a coat of Elmer's glue, you can let it dry for like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes until it gets tacky, or you can speed up the process with a heat gun, but do not let it dry all the way. You just want it to be kind of tacky, and then add another coat of that white chalk paint, the white Rust-Oleum plain white chalk paint. And then once that is applied, grab your heat gun or your blow dryer or whatever and dry your paint. And as the paint dries, it'll crackle and give you this really neat distressed crackled finish with just a little bit of that brown paint poking through. Super rustic, super weathered and worn looking, but totally optional if you don't want to take this extra step, because it did add a bit of time to the project. And then to finish it off, my little toolbox needed a handle, right? So I went to Home Depot and I bought the skinniest wooden dowel I could find. I cut it down to length, and it just barely fit into that hole at the top of each of those tags. And since it was so skinny, I decided to bulk it up a little bit with some wood beads. I don't know what was going on here, but like half of my wood beads had a hole big enough to slide onto the dowel, and half of them were too small. So that's why I'm like sorting through them here, and I don't know what was going on there. I think I've purchased wood beads from so many sources over time, and they're kind of all jumbled together in like this one drawer in my craft closet. It's kind of a mess. Nothing is very consistent on the wood bead front right now, but I just strung all of those up on the wooden dowel and painted them white with more of that white Rust-Oleum chalk paint, easy peasy. But that was it. So this is my little it reminds me of, I have like these wooden IKEA like toolbox things, they're little caddies, and I just filled it with some faux greenery, so it's like a little flower box that you can use to, display on a shelf or whatever. And I just displayed this with that picket fence that I made earlier with the jumbo paint sticks, and that was that. Okay, so now we're gonna kind of enter the territory of seasonal crafts. So we're gonna make a little skinny horizontal wooden sign. So you wanna take 4 jumbo paint sticks, lay them together, alternating which end has the handle on it, and then cut 4 regular paint sticks. So 4 jumbo, 4 regular. Cut the regular paint sticks down to length, and then stain everything with whatever wood stain you like. Once again, I'm using Decor gel stain in oak. So I stained everything, even the little crossbar pieces, all the edges and everything, just an even coat, or as even as I could, let it dry, and then I glued everything together. Once again, little dabs of wood glue, little dabs of hot glue, and then I used just a piece of a paint stick as my guide, so everything was perfectly lined up and even, like evenly spaced, and I had nice 90-degree angles on everything. But here's this little wooden sign that you can do whatever you want with. But I decided to go one step further and make it reversible. So I repeated the process on the other side, but I decided to paint instead of stain. So I just flipped it over where you can see like the little ruler marks, the grid marks, which is part of the reason why I didn't stain it. I just decided one even coat of white chalk paint, Rust-Oleum white chalk paint, once again, use whatever you got in your craft stash, solid coat of paint, and I added 4 more of those regular cut paint sticks for the little 2 sidebars and glued those into place. And so now I have this little blank canvas that's reversible that I decided with fall and Christmas crafting coming up to decorate one side fall, one side Christmas. So on the stained side, I just used these little wood pumpkin cutouts. I know they have them usually at Dollar Tree, but my Dollar Tree doesn't have fall stuff out yet. So I got these at Hobby Lobby and I just painted them. I love painting pumpkins. It's one of my favorite things. And so I did a couple of styles. So this one I used a very light pink and some orange that I kind of layered, light pink first, and then I came in with the orange. And you just make these little bracket, like parentheses or the letter C. And you kind of follow the natural shape of the pumpkin. And you layer the paint in as much orange, as much pink as you like. And then I added a little bit of dark green as well, just for fun. I also did some of like these fairy tale style pumpkins. So I did like a very light teal layered with some dark green, and then dark green for the stem, as well as some light green, like a moss colored green with some dark green layered in there. But I just did 5 pumpkins in total, and I made a little pumpkin patch. So just wood glue, hot glue, glue everything into place. A cute little fall sign that once fall is over, you can flip over and decorate for Christmas. Actually, Christmas and winter. So I decided to paint like a little pine forest scene here. So I just took a very skinny brush with brown and I made the tree trunks. And then I just used dark green on a 1-inch flat paintbrush. You hold it like at an angle, somewhere between like 30 degrees, less than 45. You just kind of pounce up and down. So back and like up and down, not side to side. So just straight up, hold your paintbrush at like a 90-degree angle. And you just pounce in all the dark green to make the little branches. And then I mixed up some like lighter medium green with some white to add a little texture and dimension. I have no special painting skills, so I like it. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, please don't leave a comment because it'll make me sad and I'll probably delete it. But that was it, my little reversible fall to winter sign that I can, display in my home for the next probably 6 months or so. And then last but not least, because we're talking about Christmas already, I was reminded of this craft that I did last year because I saw Dollar Tree has laundry baskets again. So they have these little laundry baskets. They're a little bit smaller than a standard laundry basket that you get at like Target or Walmart. But if you flip it upside down, it is the perfect shape for a tree color. And so what you do is you cut the bottom out of the laundry basket, and the bottom then becomes the top of your tree color. So for this, I used Fisker's heavy duty crafting shears. They're like my go-to for these types of harder to cut items. I just cut the bottom right out, and then you just start stacking paint sticks, unfinished wood paint sticks. And because there's like a little lip on the rim of the laundry basket, they rest right in there really nicely. And because the laundry basket is at an angle, obviously, if the bottom of the paint sticks are like lined up, the tops are going to have to overlap a bit. So how I handled that was I just hot glued just the bottom piece of the paint stick that sat in the rim of that laundry basket. And I left the top parts kind of loosey-goosey. So once I went all the way around that laundry basket and I added all my paint sticks, I was then able to kind of finagle and like layer and overlap the paint sticks as much as or little as they needed to be. And then I just wrapped everything with a piece of ribbon and tied it with a bow. And then from there, you need to cover that rim of the laundry basket. So I just used my go-to dollar store jute rope and I hot glued a couple of coils around that rim until all that plastic was covered. But that's it, easy peasy, a little unfinished tree collar there. Perfect for like a smaller tree. I think the tree that I put in this was like less than 4 feet and kind of like a pencil style. But there you have it. I'm crazy about paint stick crafts. I do hope you enjoyed all these tutorials. Thanks for sticking through till the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a like and a subscribe. Until next time, happy making.